they said, how would you answer this question? And so I started answering like this. Said there are 4 kinds of knowing: participatory, perspectival, procedural, and propositional. And of the people who have the stuff committed to them in 2 Timothy chapter 2, the problem there is propositionally normative ideology. That's what he wants them to avoid, okay? So the first 3 kinds of knowing, participatory, perspectival, procedural, those are the real kinds of knowing. The 4th one is like the currency of knowing. It's just like money. It can be exchanged for a house or groceries. It is not the house or the groceries. You can't live in it or eat it, but it can be exchanged for those things as long as all parties involved agree. Words are the same way. They point to things, but they are not the things. The fact that we have so many languages on the planet should make this abundantly clear. The words are not the things. 2 Timothy 2, the whole chapter is about the selection and grooming of those who will be in the ministry responsible for teaching others. What is warned against strongly is what we would today call propositionally normative ideology. Propositions are truth claims, like cats are mammals. That is a truth claim. We have no trouble with this sentence. You and I don't, because you and I are likely in agreement about what constitutes a cat and what constitutes a mammal. We have participatory and perspectival knowledge both of cats and of the broader category of mammals. That experiential knowledge is the real knowledge, okay? That's the real knowledge, not the words. That is why job postings require a certain amount of experience. Propositions can be faked. Our experiences with cats and mammals would be what could be called truth makers. If I said that a cat slurped water through its trunk and then that the water just glided off the cat's feathers, you would know right away that we mean 2 different things by the word cat. Thus, cat has lost its power as a proposition to convey knowledge when we are talking. We'd have to establish some other commonality before we could communicate. So instead of the words being the currency of the other 3 kinds of knowing, as would be the case if you were working with tow trucks or gardening or rocket propulsion, they are nothing more than monopoly money in this theological case. They're nothing more than monopoly money, and all the theologians are just kids throwing the monopoly money around, acting like they're rich. That's what's going on when you go to a church and you hear the pastor. That's what's happening. Okay, they're just throwing monopoly money around with all their words, all their fancy words. Every time, you go to the debate, whoever's debating, if they're debating religion, stage 3, provisionism versus Calvinism, it's all monopoly money. Okay, none of it's real. It's all Jumanji. It's all Dungeons and Dragons. And kids who are dumber than they are actually think that they are rich, and they start to follow them. Oh, look at all this monopoly money they're throwing around, all these big fancy words. They don't realize those words don't point to anything. Someone looked like they had a bunch of money. There was a guy, they called him the Tinder swindler. Paula and I watched this documentary on this guy who would date multiple women at a time, and of course none of the women knew at the time. And he would string them along for a certain while and make them think that he was rich. After a couple of months, he would start saying that he needs money for the weekend, and then, of course, I'll use all our corporate accounts and we'll pay you right back. Well, they do this, and they never get paid back. And he's got so many of them lined up that he can actually keep a string of these pumping money into him so that he can live like he's rich, even though he's not. So he's flailing all this money around, but it really didn't point to anything. He really didn't have it. He was stealing it from people. And when people, that's why the Bible says knowledge puffeth up. It's propositional knowledge. It's just words that do not point to anything real. And so these people follow them. And they create these elaborate word salads that point to nothing. It's just monopoly money. The words they use are no more valuable than shaking up a bag of Scrabble letters and then hurling them across the floor in random order. When they try to rectify the randomness, it's not in alignment with anything real. Okay? So the whole of 2 Timothy chapter 2 is warning about monopoly money words. Monopoly money words, striving out words to no profit, words that don't point at anything. And then we look at what he says next. But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase into more ungodliness. And that would be any kind of propositionally normative ideology, any kind. Calvinism, free grace, provisionism, it's all Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, it's all the same. It all shares the same problems that 2 Timothy 2 is warning against. Okay? There's so many people on comment on the channel and on Facebook and send me emails, and they're like, we need to get rid of Calvinism. We need to turn everybody to free grace. Like, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. We can't turn from one propositionally normative ideology to another one. That is literally Ephesians 4:14 being tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine, making a whole bunch of lateral moves and never any upward movement. Okay? There's so many reasons for this. Like we have predefined anything that looks like growth as heresy. We've just predefined it as heresy. So there's nowhere for people to go. All these thoughts come flooding in when we think about how to actually deal with this. So what I did when I was answering this person, I said, look at how the rest of the admonition is action, 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 action. It's about action, action, action. That's the rest of the admonition. Look at it. Right there, verse 19. Depart. Do something. Depart. Look at verse 20. Honor. Look at verse 21. A vessel unto honor. Look at the end of verse 21. Prepared unto every good work. Work should be doing something. Okay? Flee. Verse 22. Follow. But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes. Now, I've tried to tell you over and over again. When you have propositionally foolish and unlearned questions, that is profane and vain babblings, and that is the same verse they asked about at the beginning. Strive not about words to no profit. I tell you this over and over again, but there's certain problems with ideology, and it doesn't matter what the content is. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's Calvinism or provisionism. It doesn't matter. What does it do? It genders strifes. I've showed you this long list of problems with ideology before. Showed you this list. The problems with ideology, it does not matter what the ideology is. We've got long lists of them. I think I have them posted in the Cognitive Corner on the website, so I'm not going to try to take the time to bring them up right now. Orthodoxy, groupthink type stuff, and witch hunts. I mean, literally. Calvinism is literally where we get the witch hunts phrase from. Literally. Okay, and we use that phrase figuratively all the time. The Calvinists actually put it on. Cotton Mather actually did that. So there's doing. What you're trying to do, you can be oriented in one of two directions, okay? And your stage 3 people, you're not going to get this. But you need to think about this for about 12 years. And I mean that seriously. Okay? The time's going to pass anyway. You really need to think about this. Give this the time that it deserves. You can approach the Bible one of two ways. You can approach it to generate correct word salad, or you can generate to produce wise people who do appropriate actions. Those are your two orientations. Now, the people who are generating the correct word salad, those are your Calvinists and your Provisionists. They think they're doing both, right? What they don't know is that you cannot do both. You can only do one. The foolish and unlearned will argue that one can be oriented, that a person can be oriented toward both of these at the same time. They will say things like, beliefs determine behavior. And this hint of truth sounds right. It's necessary but not sufficient to cultivate wisdom and not comprehensive for what individuals need.